Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. I have a very interesting newcomer, and based on your opinion and your takeaway, so I'm going to say this man is brilliant. And for those of you who don't believe him and think he is crazy, he might make you commit a crime. I cannot control how you think. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm pretty skeptical myself because we've been taught a certain way about this. And the top I'm going to say right off the bat, it's credit cards, okay? And terminologies with it. And someone's going to say, wait, what? I'm going to say, oh, that's revelation. That's gospel. Someone's going to say, whoa, what the heck do you mean by this? Are you crazy? Are you really going to try to make me commit a crime here? I don't want these people coming to me, harassing me that I owe this money and this, all that. So we can get into it. But before we get into it, I'm going to get straight to it because this is going to be so interesting to me. And to be honest, if I'm going to be fully transparent, I am skeptical myself. There's still some things that's not connecting with my brain, especially since we've been told to use a credit card. And a credit card is our little plastic thing we use with certain limits, and we owe money to the bank. That's what we've been taught, okay? It's credit from the bank. That's what we've been taught. We're going to see how much this is going to be challenged, or we're going to stay stiff-necked. I cannot predict the outcome here. This is why it's exciting. Don't think this host got a freaking crystal ball oracle here. I don't know where this is going to go. But before we start that, let's have Hami Kilpatrick introduce himself before we get into it. So welcome to Politically High Tech. What do you want the viewers or the listeners to know about you before we get started?
Well, thank you very much. And maybe I am crazy, or maybe I'm going to ask you to do something illegal, and that's exactly fine. It doesn't matter at all to me. Little bit background history. I'm a retired teacher and an author, and I had written a book on health and healing, and it was so popular that I was given a infomercial contract back in 2004, and I needed to be test marketed because we needed to find out what worked with the audience the best. So for about 6 months, I was on radio shows all across the country. To live on that, I needed to use my credit cards. So I had 3 credit cards and didn't max them out, but got up to about 85,000. And then what happened? Why would you spend that much money? I was promised about $100,000 a month. So I thought life was going to be very good. So in about 6 months, one of the other talents, he got in trouble with the FTC. He made some claims in his weight loss book that wasn't true. And so the company got in trouble and all the new talents contracts were canceled. So I was expecting $100,000 a month, and now I owe $85,000 of credit card debt. So that's the situation I was in.
This is already a very interesting story here, people. Does he conquer this debt? I'm sure some of you were asking. Or does he still live by it and somehow escape? He did something shady. We're going to find out. So, sorry that happened, really, because that's very unfortunate. You was promised A, but you got screwed because of someone's lies and irresponsibility, which is not your fault at all. Let's just be clear. Look, we could be skeptical people, but we also got to be fair-minded, try to be as objective as we can here. I'm not going to be, Tommy, bad guy, he deserved it. F him. No. That's rabid hatred. I don't go with that. Questioning things, being skeptic, I'm fine with, okay? Because we should question things, okay? And, we've been taught to accept certain things, especially, the program of our childhood. That's how I'm unlearning things as a kid, and it's actually pretty liberating, and, parents, they did the best they could. They had to tell you some lies so you could stay in order, they meant well, but this is why it's good to be skeptical. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that's very unfortunate. And that's, he was promised great pay, he could have had some great, but since the company screwed up and, lawsuits and all that, doesn't matter how successful a company is. That's a lot of money. Even if you win, you still lose money in these cases based on what I've read. Lawyers should correct me if I'm wrong. I know the plaintiffs, they win some money. Lawyers get their cuts, but it's still, expensive to fight. Even when you win, I think it's more expensive to be the loser. Cause you gotta owe the money, of course. And I don't know how the lawyers can get paid or whatever, but I'm not a lawyer here. I'm not going to get deeper into that. So that's very unfortunate. And so how did you start tackling this $85,000 debt I'm still programmed to call it debt.
What had happened is, well, first of all, I want to start off, I'm a doubting Thomas. So if I'm doubting, I invite you to be a doubting Thomas and all your audience. So don't believe anything I have to say today. Okay. So what I want you to do, I have some show notes and there's links. So there's 3 links. Go to those links and look them up yourself and send this podcast to your CPA or anyone who's had one class of accounting. And they'll tell you, wow, I've never thought of this before, but the guy's right. So I see myself as an accountant who has discovered a worldwide bank fraud. So I'm not surprised that you'll be skeptical, and I actually encourage it because it's going to make it work a lot better. So what happened is my father-in-law at the time was a judge and attorney. And so through encouragement of a YouTube video and him, I filed 3 federal lawsuits in Los Angeles. So I had the pleading. It explained everything, what the crimes the banks had committed. We were going along very well. We had discovery coming up. And all of a sudden, I was called into court by myself. The defendant wasn't there. The bank wasn't there. And that's really strange. My father-in-law said, that doesn't happen. What happens is the judge just wants to know if you're progressing. How's the discovery? Are we set up for a trial date? At this point here, the judge doesn't really do anything. So I was called into court and he said, Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card? Well, let me start at the beginning. Oh, we'll start at the beginning later. Do you have a credit card? Well, really, it started off as a gift card. A gift card. Pull your card out. So I pull the card out in front of the judge, right? And he says, read to me what it says there. Credit card. You're an idiot. Get out. So he dismissed all 3 cases. And I'm going, now I'm going to be sued. I've got attorney fees that they're going to tack on to what I'm going to owe them, be 100, 200. Yeah, who knows what it's going to get to be. And about 30 days later, I looked at my credit report and they were gone. All 3 banks on my credit report were gone. My score increased in 45 days. So, Elias, you explain that to me.
How the hell did that happen? Despite this horrible court experience, you was sure you was going to be doomed, based on what the judge said. He dismissed you, treated like you was a crazy person or an idiot. Judge's words, right? I'm not sure it's verbatim, but something along those lines. And all of a sudden, all that was just nuked, clean, wiped out, magically erased.
And I never received a 1099-C. See, my dad was a CPA, so I have the IRS as part of my DNA because he was a CPA. In my pleading, I said, if you send me a 1099-C, and let me explain what that is. If you obtain a loan from a bank and you don't pay it back, let's say $100,000, that's considered income. So they notify the IRS that you got $100,000. So you have to pay, let's say, about $35,000, $40,000 on that. Okay. Because the bank can then file a tax deduction. See what I mean? So they want to file a tax deduction to reduce their taxes to make more money. So that's the whole thing about the bank. They're ending up making money. But I said, if you send me a 1099-C, I'm going to file a 3949-A. So a 3949-A is a statement you're sending to the IRS about fraud. And I told the bank, if you do that, I'm going to notify them that this is bank fraud. Because 1, there was never an invoice. I never had a debt. 2, there never was a loan because they didn't sign a promissory note. And 3, the other argument I have is that fraud undoes all contracts. So I'm not contractually obligated to the bank. So, okay. But then why does all years and years of thinking about this? The only thing I can think of is 1, the bank does not want this as a public record. They don't want people to know that I'm a winner and that everybody else is going to do it. The bank is on the side of society. That's what my father-in-law told me many times, is that the Supreme Court will rule one way and the exact opposite. So in 1954, they ruled that segregation was illegal, but in 1896, they ruled it was legal. So the Supreme Court goes with the flow of what's popular at the time. So not every time, but generally that's what they do. So they didn't want this to be known. The judge must have read my pleading by that time. It takes them a while to get through. And, now maybe the bank was going, Judge, we don't have an employee who's going to show up for a deposition, swear underneath the Bible, and with penalty of perjury, meaning claiming a fine and jail time. If they lie, they don't have the evidence that he's asking for. So I can't tell you, but it was weird to be called into court without the other party there, out of the blue, but it was coming up to the deposition. That's the only logical figuring I can do, is they don't want this to happen. Then why doesn't everybody know about this? Is I think the bank has you sign a non-disclosure. So that keeps it quiet. So nobody knows it's a fraud. I'm not a genius. I'm not somebody super smart. I don't have the inside information. I didn't work for the bank. I'm an accountant. I know how to count and I have a memory. So other people must have figured this out. Other people are doing it. And the only way you don't know about it is it must be a non-disclosure. That's all I can think of.
Wow, I'm gonna have to review everything I signed then to see if it's non-disclosure. I think even promissory notes is one that could really get you there. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And you said it's a statement. It's just a list of goods you buy. It's not an invoice. Invoice you have to pay because that's what you do. That's what you do with the business. Like for example, I order a new laptop, right? Then that company will give me an invoice. I mean, I have to pay that. I mean, there's no argument there unless I want to be a fraudster and all that. There you go. Reputation, my financial health, all that goes down the drain. That's straightforward, right? You don't have to be a genius in any sense. You just got a basic understanding what these are. And I think a lot of things you touch is terminology. I think that's important because we just assume we know until we look into the definitions. That's the thing I've noticed when I read something. So wait, it's terminology. And sometimes you got to get to the root of the word, what they mean, as opposed to because we are programmed, the average person programmed to pay those statements. It's true. It says statement. Does it say bill, invoice? So that part is true. It got me thinking my own bank statements. And then let me just do a little temperature check with my listeners and viewers. Are you still with me? Are you getting lost yet? Either way, this is going to be very interesting. That's all I'm going to say for sure. That's the only thing I could guarantee. You might not like it or you might love it. I don't know. I can't. I wish I had a crystal ball and stalk you for a second just to get the pulse of what's going on here. But I'm not going to do that unless I do this live, which this is not live. This is a pre-recorded. But regardless, I'm going to get your comments. I want you to comment. As Tommy's onto something. Or is it making you a crook? Comment. Just comment. You have the comment section right there. I encourage First Amendment, type it down. If you get canceled, it's because of YouTube, not because of me. Okay. Just remember that. And then it'll be eventually uploaded to Rumble where it's a little more safe to express your crazy opinion. Okay. That's all I'm going to say about that. I want to dig deeper into, so you counter the 1099-C with I need the form number for the fraud report again, because I'm pretty sure I didn't catch that. Make sure you're listening on my audience and viewers to say, if your host is deaf, feel free to say that. I just want to make sure I'm right here because that report's fraud instead of them saying CISA is like a what? I never got that form before. I think it's used to report what? Income. If they report as income, they get like a lower tax. Am I correct?
Well, it's a form for someone who gets basically a loan that doesn't pay it back. So it's an income without having to work. It's not a job where you get paid.
Okay, gotcha. No, this is just for my own understanding because I want to make sure I'm really understanding. This is mind-boggling, even for your hosts. This is something that this is going to challenge normal people's thinking for sure. Whether you think it's brilliant or not, because we're just programmed to pay them. Okay, we just we treat them like it's an invoice. But it does say bank statement.
Well, as you were saying, law is language and language is law. So let me ask you and your audience, and it applies to me too. Is it possible that we have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? Is it possible?
Give you a few seconds to answer, or you can always rewind or cheat the time limit thing here. I'm not going to enforce that rule. I just want some good answers. I'm just going to answer just strictly for me. Right, just strictly for me. I would say yes, because based on looking language, we assume program based on maybe we learned this as a kid or as a young adult based on what your parents teach you. That molding, that condition, you don't really question it unless you dealt with a great opposition that challenges that.
So
most people haven't gotten that.
Yeah. So we know what a lie is, but when it's told generationally. So what if you've been told a lie for 60 years and that's going to be indoctrination? Now, if you don't question it, now it's brainwashed. So I'm not here to throw derogatory words to your audience. No, I'm also pointing to myself too. So how we stop that is that we use the word allege. Okay. So we watch the TV, we see a bank robbery in progress, and they always say alleged bank robbery. even though they dropped their wallet, the reporter picks it up off the floor, opens it up, and shows the guy's name. We know who he is. It's still alleged. So when you start using the word allege, you stop becoming brainwashed. And now we can talk about the indoctrination of the lies. So that's all I'm revealing are the lies we've been told. And it's going to take a while to go through this, but it's a very simple way to understanding it, because the bank does not have an invoice, and all you have to do is ask for an invoice, and that shows the product they sold or the service they provided for you has a date, has the taxes, has the shipping, has everything on their terms and conditions, and that's what we pay from, is an invoice.
Allegedly. I'm trying to protect myself here. There you go. Just, it's just, sometimes I forget to say that, which I can actually get me in trouble. Feel free to hold me to the fire, listeners and viewers. I encourage that. I encourage you to challenge me. But if you just say I'm stupid or fat, I'm just going to ignore you because you're just a child to me. And I don't care about your childish or peanut opinions. But if you have something critique or constructive, even if it's challenging me and my ego, which I don't mind, then I will address it. Sometimes I like that there's certain comments I have that are that disagree with me. I say, oh, you do bring up a good point. I was trying to make myself wiser in growth. I try to have a growth mindset. So just say, oh, I know what it is. Tommy's dead wrong. He's lying to us all. We got to owe the banks these money. And then, and I could just defend the bank, say, well, maybe they're using the wrong term. Maybe you should call it an invoice instead of a statement. If I was like and trust me, there is a scene in his book about the guy that tries to defend that. I'm not going to say the name, but just know that his name in Latin means wicked. Okay, he tried to defend that. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Not giving too much away. I think you should read it for yourself. It's an interesting read. I know it's so humorous, but for me, it was more, I was just so mind blown that I couldn't even laugh or just even just have a lighthearted reaction to it. It's just, okay. I wonder what Balaam's gonna do, and Fidelis, that means faith. I mean, look, it goes well together. And then the witness, I think the X says Vera, I think it's truth. Yeah, so I looked this up, and the good thing I gotta say about the author here, he is author, by the way, as well. Let me just remind you of that. He's not just duped up CPA, whatever. Some of you might think that's fine. You can put it in the comment section, but I'm not going to take you very seriously, and he's not going to take you very seriously either. I'm just going to probably say, oh, you just got a few negative comments that are not worth addressing. If you want to question what he is trying to tell you, that's fine. Challenge ideas, people. Challenge ideas. But it's going to be like, Tommy's just a decrepit old man. He don't know what he's talking about. I dismiss you. Or you want to say Eli's a dumb young idiot who just wants to hear his own voice. I don't care. I don't care about that either. And I do go through the comments. I just don't. You're not worth the response. Because if I respond, that means I'm validating something. Okay? Rather it's positive or negative. There's some validation there. All right, that's what I'm going to say. All right, enough of my yammering. And this is interesting to say the least, because we just go based on life, especially generational. And mine was generational because I was taught by my mom to pay it as soon as possible. True story. I'm not, and that's what I've been raised with. So I'm checking. Is there a minimum you could challenge that? That's my question. I'm sure people that owe a lot, you could challenge it, but what's that? Is there a minimum here? Can I challenge even $1?
$1 up to millions. It doesn't matter. Because again, what you said about, and I agree, I want people to disagree with me, but disagree with the facts first. So when I state a fact, tell me that's not true. So read the show notes and you'll see the 3 links there. So when we kind of get into it, is that I wrote a book on Forgive and Forget How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. So now with the word alleged, like you said, you could say, how do I nuke my alleged credit card debt? So that gets us into a question of, is there legitimate credit cards and illegitimate? And that's true. There is. So let me give you a story. You need tires, and you go to a tire store and you walk in, you say, I really don't have $1,000. I've got a bonus coming. I have a refund check coming in a month. I can't afford it, but I need the tires or I'm going to die on the highway. And then you say, why don't you in-store, go into the store and apply for an in-store credit card. And if you get approved, great. So you're approved, and they put tires on your car. They pay a technician to balance them and put them on your car, and you drive away without paying. At the end of the month, you get a statement, which is true. And on that statement, they have an outstanding unpaid invoice, and you owe it. I'm exactly 100% with you and your audience as you owe it morally, legally, ethically, whatever you want to say. You owe the money because a store paid for their own tires to put on your car, and they paid a technician to do it for you. So you owe the money. This is not a scheme to get out of debt. It's not even a scheme. It's just some information to you. So that is, if you challenge it, they have the outstanding unpaid invoice. And that is true. So how do you know your Walmart card or Amazon or any department store is a true credit card? Look on the back. On the back, if it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of London, Bank of Tokyo, this works worldwide. I have uncovered a worldwide scheme, as you would say, from the banks committing a fraud on all the people, and it's been gone for generations.
So let me see if I get this straight. So this says issued by such and such a bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, or a major bank you could list. And I'm just listing American banks. I was ones I'm familiar with. Those are not as legitimate, I would say, allegedly.
Use the word alleged.
And yep, I'm trying to be mindful here because, look, I'm not opening us to another lawsuit. That part that part I could be honorable with. So what if it was issued by the store itself, then of course that would be legit. Right? Like it's issued by Walmart. Let's use Walmart. Walmart is a big one. Walmart, I don't know,
Amazon.
Corporate headquarters, or Amazon. There you go, that's another one. But if it's issued by, but I think a lot of them are issued by banks.
Now it's a bank issued alleged credit card. So you just start with the word alleged. We brainwash folks. Okay, start with the word alleged. How do I nuke my bank issued, not a store issued? You owe that. But if it's a bank issued alleged credit card, now we can start that whole conversation about what happened.
You see, audience and viewers, are you paying attention to the nuance? It's not, I can escape every single debt. So, let's just debunk one framing I have here. He's not turning you into a crook. That's been debunked. But he's just saying you could challenge the ones that are not allegedly truthful. Okay. Let's just say it like that. It was bank issue. And just a lot of these cards are bank issue.
Right. So think about this. Years ago, you'd go into the general store. You say, hey, Charlie, I need 5 pounds of flour, a pound of butter, a pound of sugar. I'll pay you when my crops come in. They go, oh, yeah, Ben, I got it all covered. So no problem at all. But they have an invoice. You owe the money. The bank never did that. The bank is not a merchant. Did they put tires on your car? No. Did they come out to your house and do some plumbing work? No. So a bank is only involved in loans. So they're not involved in that. So they cannot issue a credit. They cannot issue a credit card. So once we establish that they cannot possibly have an invoice, all you do is ask. So, well, what happened to me after the lawsuit that was thrown out? As a friend of mine had a charity and it was dormant. And so she gave it to me and I revamped it to be credit repair. A lot of the people that had credit report issues also had some debt. So I would write a letter to the bank, ask them to close the checking account, which basically it is, and not issue a 10C. And it happened. So I happened to help about 1,000 people over about a 10-year period doing this. So I was doing this and no disclosure, but they were small amounts. But the larger ones, the bank would push back. And that's where I would have my expert witness CPA go in. It's only when my people would not do it themselves, because when you have an attorney, that means that you're an infant or an imbecile. And not to insult anybody who has an attorney representing them, but that's what you are admitting to be. Attorneys are there to represent someone else who can't represent themselves. And that would be an infant, children, and imbeciles, people who can't have the mental capacity. Courts were never set up for an intelligent person who can talk to be able to hire someone to represent them. That was never set up that way. So if you admit you're an imbecile or an infant, go right ahead and have an attorney. But from my experience, they stab me in the back every single time. I was at the court. We were at the hearing. We were at the trial. I had my expert witness. The attorney was well versed in it. And then all of a sudden he would say, oh, this judge, I can't go in front of him. I got other clients. If I do that, I'm going to look like a crazy person. I'm going to look like I'm scamming the system, because all the attorneys, the judges are all been brainwashed, and it's a whole system once you get caught into it. So if you say you have credit card debt, you've got debt. You can't get out of it. Okay. You have to go and pay. But if you say alleged, now you have the possibility of not getting out of debt. What if it was never a debt in the first place?
You already pointed out something interesting about attorneys. I would add that it's also politics. Some may know each other. Some of these cover excuses, I call them, just to back out. I'm sure they're not going to tell you that, but I'm sure that has something to do with that. Allegedly. Can't prove that either. So let me just be clear. I could be wrong there, but that's my inference. That's my, educated guess, you could say. That's so interesting. And attorney is true, because I think people who normally go to court without an attorney, yeah, they may be smart, but they're seen as crazy or a black sheep, because we're just conditioned. And even movies, some movies show people defend themselves without the attorney, but that's more common in movies, I would say, than in reality. But I think we're just so conditioned to have an attorney because, they know better. They well versed in law. They know how to navigate the legal gymnastics. And sadly, as American citizens, we're just good at outsourcing stuff away because we don't want to deal with things ourselves. So I will even add lazy or brainwashed to that as well. Instead of just, an infant and imbecile. Are you offended yet? This podcast does not care about your feelings. If you're offended, if you know it's not you, don't be offended. We've been taught certain ways, and as a host, I'm unlearning old ways that no longer serve or has been proven to be lies. Okay, let's just be clear. So, look, a lot of us in court, we're gonna look like imbeciles because this is what we've been taught to do. Okay. And then if an intelligent person, I'll say the only thing that's a kind of uphill battle for an intelligent person is that they have to defend themselves well, but they also have to follow the procedures and decorum of the court. And they may not be well versed on that aspect. And they might be held in contempt, even though they might be legally right. Or I'm just pointing that out. So they got to study these at court decorum, sustained, overruled, and you can't just keep questioning if it's sustained, because it's saying, okay, that's an inappropriate question. Find another way around it, or change the topic or something, or change their frame of the question. That's, I think they could pick that up, but will they pick it up fast enough? I don't know. Feel free to chime in on that.
So what I'm saying is you don't have to be an attorney and go through all this procedure. My position and what I'm proposing to do is to send a letter, and the letter extremely powerful, and you never go to court, and in 45 days, it's off your credit report. So if we can establish, first of all, the bank is not possible to have an invoice. So if you ask the bank for an invoice, they don't have one. Perfect. Now you're going to say, they loaned you the money. Now you got to stop and think about this. When you went into Charlie's general store, you didn't go in for a loan. Hey, Charlie, can I borrow $500? You took his product or his service and you owe it to him later. So you can't be both, but that's where the bank is lying to you, is they claim to be both. One, a merchant, and the other side, they're going to be a bank and loan it to you. Okay, let's go the route that they loaned it to, because now we established that it's not possible for them to have an invoice. And the invoice is the only instrument you can go into court and say, Judge, these people owe me money. How do you prove that? Here's the invoice. Here's their signature. Here's the date we went out there. Here's the product we've provided for them. Here's the taxes, the shipping, the terms and conditions. They didn't fulfill it. They didn't pay us. And we tried. We sent statements. We've talked to them. We've sent debt collectors after them. So now we want you to demand that they pay us and get a judgment. So that's what you do. Let's go the route that they loaned you the money. Okay, that's what banks do. So let me ask you and your audience a question. If you apply for a loan and you are turned down, do you still get the loan?
Few seconds of intentional silence. This is not to be awkward or anything. Okay, they turn you down for a loan, so...
Did you get the loan? No, you don't get the loan.
No.
So if you apply and you do get the loan, then you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. Do you remember all that paper you had to fill out? Okay. There also had to be proof of income. You had to prove you had income to pay this loan back. All right. Because what say the bank is taken into court? The judge say, you're loaning money to people who can't pay it back. You're predatory. And that is where the bank is going to be criminally liable for taking advantage of people. So the bank has to have you bring proof, and they question it. They might even do more investigation to find out that it's not true. And then they deny you the loan. Even though they applied, you were accepted. Once they saw that you don't have the income, they can't go forward with this. The next thing to do is they have collateral, because they have to have something to sell to bring the money. Because you want a home loan, they take away your home. You went for a car loan, they take away your car. You go in for a personal loan and you put your yacht up, well, they take the yacht away. So if you don't pay, they have something tangibly they can go out and take from you, legally take it from you, sell it. And then if they come up short, too bad for them, right? They weren't smart enough. That's not the court's problem. But if they came up long, they made money, they can't keep the money. So if you owe 100,000 and you put your $1 million yacht up and they sell for $1 million, they don't keep the 900,000. They have to give that to you. You lose your yacht, but you got 900,000. See, so that's what's happening. So they also have to look at your credit report, because they got to see some kind of history, and your credit score determines your interest rate. And the last thing you sign is a promissory note, a promise to pay them back. And that ties in to the second link, which is from the book Modern Money Mechanics, that was required reading for me in college in my accounting classes. And I want to make one correction. You said I was a CPA. My dad was a CPA. I went to school to be a CPA, but I never became a certified public accountant. I am an accountant, but I'm not certified. I'm not a public. So that's okay. So you have to have these documents in line to get a loan. So since there was no loan, there's no debt. You don't have a debt loan at all.
Okay, I thank you for that correction. Yeah, I just realized I lumped your father's true profession. I'm not going to use alleged, because that's proven, solidified proof. I could call you the alleged CPA, but okay, that's just a little dry humor in there. But yeah, no, you're not a CPA. Thank you for that correction. See, I don't mind being corrected. My ego is not important. If my ego was another person, he would have been killed. It would have been bloody scene. Okay, he would have been killed, destroyed, chopped up, whatever. This is not a podcast for kids. Okay, so if the eagle was a hostage, it would have died already. Okay, it already got killed several times. If you want to be bloody and graphic, this is proof I don't care about my ego. So yeah, he's not a CPA. Okay, let's make that clear. There's no alleged, there's no maybe. This is solidified. This is certified fact. There's you certified. We can easily prove that. Okay, I don't need to use alleged there. Alleged is kind of meaning you might be onto something, but at the same time, you could, there's a chance you could be wrong too. So that's why you use allegedly. Even though we know the person died, but I say allegedly murder. But what if that could be an accident in the home, for example? I'm just gonna be short here because we don't talk about. We'll stick to the money here. So that's why you say allegedly it was murder. But what if it was a freak accident? So use allegedly. Yeah, he died. That's fact. But how he died is the debate, right?
So did you sign a promissory note for your bank issued alleged credit card?
And just now, let's just stick to the bank topic. You're signing your rights away once you do that, right? You just, even if you try to sue them, that promissory word was, okay, I promise you to pay this amount of money. It could be 50,000, maybe I'll go with 200,000. And then that also explains how the bank could get your house, the yacht, the car, something valuable, right? It has to be something really valuable that could equate, allegedly, because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the bank is foolish, but even if the person's kind of foolish, based on what you said, they have to owe the surplus of that, right? But if, I owe 200,000, but their yacht was worth $1 million, so they got to give me 800,000 back.
Right.
I'll make sure I understand that. Okay, this is signed with promissory note, all that. So the thing he taught you about getting those banknotes, that statement wiped out. Okay, it's not a debt statement. That's disguised as a debt. Let's be clear, because we've been brainwashed to think that. So then the trick could work.
Right. So the bank.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me.
So this is what I'm proposing is not a scheme to get out of your debt. This is not to get out of a car loan or your personal loan or a home loan. This is strictly the bank issued alleged credit card. Now, Just think about this for a second. You purchase a fractional portion of a bank stock. They can do that now, right? So for $10, you're now a owner of Bank of America. Now it's your bank, it's your money. Would you want to have the bank loan out your money to people who can't pay it back? Would you want your bank to loan out your money to people who don't promise to pay it back? What's going on here? It's the only way. It's federal banking laws, and you can read it in the show notes. It's on page 6 of Modern Money Mechanics. And it says right there that what banks do is they accept a promissory note and they write numbers into your free checking account. So that's what banks do. You sign a promise to pay and they write any number they want. It could be $1, it could be $1 million, 10, who knows? It doesn't matter. That's how they create fiat money and create inflation.
You hear that connection now? This is not the first time we talked about fiat and inflation in this show. Even though I'll talk about it normally from a political lens, this is the financial lens here. And I think we need to know both. But I was to say the financial lens here, and I'm going to attack my own brain, for example, is even more important and more impactful, because this is how you know about why inflation happens and why these banks, they close down because of their irresponsible practices. Okay. And instead of just saying, oh my goodness, what's going on? Why is all this crazy stuff happening? I don't know. When you have knowledge, you have power, especially when you apply it correctly. Just having knowledge itself is not good enough. So let's just be clear about that.
So I want you and your audience to look up on.
Just to answer that loan question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let me just say this real quick. The loan thing. I mean, listeners or viewers, I want you to be involved in this. I want to make this very engaging. Will you lend someone money who you have a very good idea is not going to owe you? Just use sense. I'm not going to use common sense because common sense is dead. Just use sense. Okay. Just basic logic. I can even call it that. No, right? So sure. This is how the bank got to create their document trail, and I'm actually liking this. He's actually winning me over, by the way, if I'm going to be fully transparent, because this is not as cockamamie as I've researched it. I thought it was a little crazy. Some parts I understood half, and the other half was like, I don't know. I hope he could debunk my not even skepticism, my negative, my negative thinking. I might call it cynicism, because cynicism will just mean he'll never come on the show. I'm already sold that. He's crazy. There's nothing he can do about it. I don't care. Tommy's crazy. He's smoking some great stuff to promote this. Okay. So let's be real about this. I'm skeptical, yes, but I also had some negative bias on that. So maybe this is why I have this interview. Sometimes you have to challenge your own biases. That's a part of growth. You got to challenge what you've been taught, because not everything you've been taught is correct.
Mine is like
or it can be incorrect. Go ahead.
Mine is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So what I want you and your audience to do is type this up on the Google and 1776 to present inflation rate of the United States. And you'll see a flat line until all of a sudden, right about World War II, straight up with inflation. So what happened to us is, I believe that the Federal Reserve purposely created the depression by raising the interest rate. That's a true fact. They raised the interest rate. They choked off the economy. But what was the purpose? What was the reason? Was to consolidate themselves and their power. In the beginning of 1913, they had no power. They just had this shell of a corporation that was based in Puerto Rico. So it's not federal at all. It's like Federal Express, has nothing to do with the federal government. It's just a name. So they needed to consolidate the power, and it took them to eliminate banks all across the country and have that bank holiday to force them to be closed, or to absorb them, to force those directors or owners of the bank to come and meet with the big shots. And they were going to say, if you don't comply, we're going to eliminate you. So jump on board. Once they jumped on board, that's when the fractional banking system started. And that's the whole story. You sign a promissory note and they write numbers into your account. So everything before that, when someone loaned money to somebody, it took money out of the economy and gave it to somebody else. There was that balance. And it went on from 1776 to about 1945. And all of a sudden, it's just been nuts. So there's your answer of what's going on. So the banks don't loan you money. They don't take the depositor's money and loan to somebody else. And that's in the show note in the very first link. And even the second link will laugh at you. It's ridiculing you. Of course, we don't take depositors' money and loan it out. There wouldn't be enough money. So there is no loan. So you don't have a loan obligation with the bank.
And this one here, this is when I completely agree with, because I've studied this. I'll say in the surface level. I said, well, we didn't have debt. It's true. It was just this very, very thin line, and then it spiked up. It's just, what the heck happened there? Well, that's your answer. The most digestible answer you could get, instead of, you hear a bunch of words that's going to go. I'll say that's the most clear, concise, digestible answer you could get. This is the fiat. This is fiat money. This is how it works. This does relate to you. So if you don't think you need money, I would say you really smoking the good stuff. And I wonder how you could live without money. And I actually, if you're brave enough and silly enough, I'm going to be a little nice. I'm not going to call you stupid. Silly enough, feel free to put that in the comment section. Or if you're wise enough, you don't want to admit it, just keep it to yourself. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say. Because what he's saying, I can actually vouch for it. And if you don't believe us, you could easily look. Look, he already got the show notes. It's going to be on the show notes. Everything you said about show notes, it's, as my duty as a host, it's going to be there. And plus, he needs to make some money too. Let's be real. I'm for shameless plugin. I'm pro shameless plugin. So I rather say I'm a villain as opposed to say I'm a heroic person who's going to stab you in the back. Shameless plugin is encouraged. Okay. And I have read some of that. It's actually some good stuff. Good stuff. Just make sure your brain's not on ADHD feeling. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. It does. You got to calm down a bit. All right, so that's all. That's all I'm gonna say here. I'm bringing a promise. I'm supposed to be skeptical, but I don't know. He's actually winning me over. That's why I framed it neutrally. So I got to give myself that space here. Allegedly, you could say at the beginning I was more skeptical, but this actually makes sense because he gave you clear context. This is only bank issued. This is not store. This is not car payments. So don't try this trick. The bank could be challenged. Okay. Don't do this with the car, the yacht, house, or whatever super expensive luxury item you want. Okay. That's a totally different story. You sign it. So I'm going to pay them all that. And look, you don't have to read all of that, but it says it along the lines. Okay. That's why we got all that long legalese, biblical word, but you just sign it because, you either pressure to it or you're in a rush, wherever the excuse is. You already put yourself in that commitment, and they're legally, it's legally enforced. Okay. So they sue you. Yeah. Well, you're going to lose most of the time, unless they screw up somewhere or there's some technicalities. I don't know. Results widely vary. That's all I'm going to say. If the bank somehow mess up the process along the way, then maybe, just maybe, be skeptical. But that I cannot promise you. That's, results wildly vary from there.
The three words.
Yeah, so this is actually very.
The three words I have you to remember is follow the money. So now let's follow the money. How does this whole thing start? Okay. Banks advertise, right? To get you as a customer. So they spend money to get you as a customer. Years ago, they would purchase toasters and wall clocks. And if you came into the bank, they would give you one to get you to open an account. Cost them money. One time I saw in a newspaper, it said, come into our bank and deposit $25 and in 90 days, we will match it. Well, what did I do? I took my $25, put it into their bank, waited 91 days, went into the bank, withdrew my 25 and the bank's $25, and I walked out and closed the account. Now, I have a question for you. Did I rip off the bank? Did I steal from the bank? And was it immoral what I did?
Let's say no.
No. How could that be immoral? The bank said, do this. I did it. And I walked away with their money. It's the cost of doing business. Not everyone's going to sign up, right? So you got to remember that because that's going to come at the end of our podcast. That's going to come back and haunt the people who are going to be discrediting me. Okay. So what happened? What the bank did is they offered you a credit card. You thought it was a credit card, a bank issued credit card, and you applied and you were approved and they sent you a gift card. Okay. If you don't promise to pay it back, if you have no promise, it's not a loan. It's a gift. If they didn't verify your income or have any kind of collateral, it obviously can't be a gift because you are a shareholder and you would not do that. You told me that if you are a bank owner, you're not going to be giving people loans who can't pay it back, who don't have a credit score, who don't have, and not even a promise to pay. So this is an advertising scam. It's done by a criminal. So now we shift the words. We don't use this terminology of the criminal. We use the words of truth. And what the truth is, they mailed you a card. You remember some people got a credit card without even applying. Hey, look, honey, I'm pre-approved. Look at that. We got a credit card. Great. So what did you do with your gift card? See, if you start using the correct words, you're not going to go down the rabbit hole of the criminal. So you went to, let's say, Home Depot and you bought a toilet, a golden throne, and you're walking out with a toilet. The guy at the door is going to say, wait a second, sir, did you pay for that? And you say, yes, I have a receipt. You didn't pay for that, did you? You didn't have $500. You didn't buy that toilet. You were given a gift card and used a gift card. So who paid Home Depot that night or the next day?
Well, if I'm correct, that would be the bank because it costs of doing business.
The bank had to pay Home Depot. Home Depot is not going to let you walk out with their $500 toilet without paying, but they knew that they were going to be paid that night or the next day. So they had no concern about you. So they gave you a receipt. You own the toilet. Who owns the toilet? You do. Now, are you going to get a statement from Home Depot in a month saying you have an outstanding unpaid invoice? Oh, you're not going to get anything from them at all. You have proof that you paid for it. So they're not going to be bothering you and claiming that you have a debt. Then what you got was a statement at the end of the month from your bank issued alleged credit card account. So let me ask you a question in your audience. If I have a normal checking account and I get a statement every month, is that a bill?
Insert Jeopardy music.
That
I'm not sure I'm going to put that in there. Okay, that's fast forward. I don't got patience for it. My New York moodiness is kicking in. Cut the music. Bad music, free music. That what you getting? I'm a cheapo. Should be an remember statement, not invoice.
A statement is only an action meant to state, to say something. Now, I have an experience you don't have. When I had my first job as an accountant, the CPA came up to me. I didn't even know this guy. And I'm just getting my desk organized. He put his finger in my face and he was angry. And he said he did this on purpose later on when I talked to him. He was a nice guy, but he had to do this to impress me. He said, if you pay from a statement, I'm going to fire you. And then he was very nice. He said, the reason why is that the statement is only that's what they say. We could have paid that last week and you don't know that. So we only pay from an invoice. And look right over here in the corner. See that department head signature? Only department head signed approved invoice do you ever pay. So never pay. I don't want to hear their crying complaints on a phone. I don't want to hear about their statements. You only pay from that invoice. So an invoice is a true debt. So that is an impression I had on me. So the bank never has an invoice. So if you ask for that, they cannot provide that. So follow the money. So what happens is you received this gift card in the mail. You could have not even applied for it and didn't sign anything. That doesn't matter if you signed anyway either, because fraud undoes all contracts. So you went to a store and you bought some of their product or had a service done for you and you didn't pay for it, but the gift card paid for it. You got a statement at the end of the month by your bank issued alleged credit card statement that made it look like a bill. That is the fraud. That's what the banks have been doing, is lying to you. Generationally, your parents said pay it right away. So that's what you did. You wrote a check out. You're a good person. You're a moral person, but you're a victim. You are a crime victim. They're trying to wake you up, people. You have been a victim. And so what did you do? You wrote a $500 check out and mailed to the bank. Now, here is an important question, and I got to kind of go slow so people really get it. A card came in the mail. You went and spent the money at the store. You get a statement at the end of the month and you wrote a check out. Was that the first time you ever sent money to this brand new bank that you never even heard of that gave you this alleged credit card? Is that the first time you ever sent money to the bank? Because we're following the money. I'm now trying to follow your money. So you have it in your checking account. You wrote a check out and you mail it to a different bank. Is that the first time the bank got money from you? Is that true?
Sadly, I won't be surprised that's a no, because they always find crazy ways just to get money. I mean, based on...
See, we got to go back. This is you, Elias. You got a gift card. You spent it at a store. You have no connection with this bank ever before. They just sent it to you out of the blue. You wrote a check out to Bank of America, even though you have even though you have a Wells Fargo account, you wrote it to Bank of America and you mailed it to bank. Is that the first time the bank ever got your money?
Okay.
So that's the first time. Now, here's what the thing is. Banks are only set up for loans. So if you go into a bank with no money, you hope to come out with money, and that's through a loan. If you take money into the bank and leave it there, that's technically a loan. And this is the first time you've ever heard of this, but that's in your show link. The very first one says you do not make deposits. What you are doing is loaning the bank money. They hold it security for you. And as you spend the money from your checks, your debit card, then they have less obligation to hold it for you because the money's gone. They paid it out to all your people you asked them to pay for. So that's what you did is you loaned $500 to the bank and it's put in your free checking account. Every purchase since then has been with your own money. You have been making payments, which is not a payment. It's a lie. You have making deposits. It's not a deposit. You have been increasing your loan to the bank every month and you spend the money. It's your free checking account. So that's what I'm telling you is to wake you up is that you have fronted all of the purchases after the gift card. So the gift card turns into a debit card. So once you have the terminology correct, you have a debit card and there is not $1.3 trillion of credit card debt. It's $1.3 trillion of what the bank wants you to deposit. There is no debt. There is no loan because they couldn't loan out money to people who won't pay it back. They know you're not going to pay it back because it's your checking account. They did this to get you to be a customer. And what's a customer worth to them? $23.04. Don't believe me. I looked it up 2 months ago. Type it up. What does the average card holder have to pay in fees? And it's about 4 cents every month. So if a bank has 1 million card holders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. In my calculations, 1/4 of their profits. So all the banks all around the world, 1/4 their profit is based on an illegal criminal scheme of fraud to get you to pay $23.04 on a free checking account.
Let's not forget the word allegedly. Yeah, no, this is, like I said, I had to challenge that because I've been doing this for a long time. It's generational because this is what World War II era. That's multiple generations right there. People, you don't need to be a math genius just to know that, generations, 15, 20 years, relatively around there. And then you do from the World War II to now. Okay. That's at least 4 or 5 generations, maybe. Yeah. So this is generational. Okay. So, so that's all. So that's all, yep. 80 years to be exact. Yeah. For the end of World War II.
80 years.
80 years. 80 years. So
4
this
generations.
is definitely generational. Yeah, 4 generations. Yeah, if it's 20, yep, 4. Boom, 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 boom. If you want to be exact.
So how do you deal with
4
this?
generations. Yeah.
So how do you deal with this whole situation? If you now know there's a fraud going on, and if you don't want to continue with this, then I'm suggesting you withdraw your money from the credit card. You may have never heard it before, but let's use a criminal word. Max out your card. If you max out your card, what you have done is use their language and you're sunk. What I'm telling you is you have a free checking account that you put your money in, because if you just follow the money, your money is in the account. Now, normally, if you go into a bank and say, I want to close my checking account. Oh, so sorry to see you leave us, Elias. No, we don't want you to leave, but if you have to go, here's your $5.31. Bye-bye. In this case, the banks confiscate your money. So it's your money in your free checking account. It's your money. Withdraw it before you write the letter. Because all you're going to do is you need to write a letter. You can't go into the bank and just say close the account, because how do you close your bank issued alleged credit card account? So you write a letter, and in that letter, you explain what the crimes the bank has committed. And if they send you a 1099, what you will do. And I have this all laid out in a letter, and it's very simple to do. So that's the weakest part of the whole angle, is to send a letter to close your bank issued alleged credit card account.
Audience and viewers, are you learning something? Now I'm putting on my serious hat. This is mind blowing some of you, and this is definitely challenged. I would say the vast majority people think about this. You just think we owe them, right? They give us service, we owe them. This has been just because it's popular, been done for a long time, it's mainstream. it doesn't always make it correct. Let's be clear. Just because it's popular, mainstream, it doesn't mean it's correct. But thing is, we assume that because it's normalized. So that, that's it. I'm not attacking just you. This is an attack to myself as well. Because as very young, and I was picking up money concepts pretty quickly. At 7 years old, I had to pay bills. If I borrow money for the bank or use credit card, I owe them. Simple as that. I'm not gonna make no fancy. I knew that, or try to make myself sound like a mastermind. I'll be lying to you. That's all I knew that. I just wanted the guests to prove my superior intellect. No, I'll be lying to you. I was brainwashed. Well, I'm getting on conditioning. It's currently in processing. It takes time, if you want to be honest. Think of this differently, and just because it's different doesn't make it wrong. It might feel weird because it's challenging your set of assumptions that's been ingrained for you, parents, grandparents, okay? Ain't just mommies and daddies. So look, this is not to attack them. This is a massive conditioning that they have done to us, okay? And I'm just going to use a nice word, conditioning, because we think a certain way, we assume a certain way, and that's it. We don't think, oh, the bank has pulled an alleged fraud against us. I mean, I will not think of this. I will just think, oh, this is just normal part of the business. That's how most people think. So, I'm definitely learning a lot here. I hope you're learning something too. Like I said, you just check, challenge the show notes. Don't take his word for it. Don't take my word for it as well. Check the show notes. He's not just saying something to say something. He actually brought the receipts. That's a cool kids term, proof, evidence for the traditional generations. The cool kids call it receipts, evidence, proof. Okay. Check the show notes. He brought the documentation. Okay. So he's not just speaking craziness. This is not, weed talk or anything like that, or a drunken idiot on the street just spewing nonsense and rants. No, the bank screwed me up!
And this is not sovereignty either. This is not bills of exchange or some crazy argument you have. This is basic accounting, basic business. And all I ask you to do is follow the money. And when you follow the money, it's your money in your account. So if you have a checking account and you want to close it, you can close it. And it's your money is in the account. So when in the show notes on link number 4 is a guy who promotes this on YouTube, that you go into a bank and you open an account where they match the money, and he's made $361. He's thrilled to tell you, do that. What I'm telling you is the exact same thing as when they sent you that $500 credit card or $500,000 a loan, a line of credit. It's your money. It's your gift. So you can take that money now because they're going to confiscate it if you don't do it. So your first letter, that's what I would send to all my clients that came in with alleged bank issued credit card, and they would take it off the credit report. That's all you want them to do is a click. So how you can really make it much more effective than just that is to have your CPA. I will not work with anyone without a third-party verification. So you want me to help you, I will not help you unless your CPA or someone with a class of accounting tells you that I'm right. You have this next letter is from your CPA to the bank saying there is no invoice. If you have one, please provide it. But I don't think you did goods and services to my client. 2, you violated federal banking laws because the law requires you to have a promissory note. My client never promised to pay you back. There is no loan. There was no promise. And so then that's good. Take another step further, and I want to talk to your attorney. How many scammers want to talk to your attorney? But I have to have the CPA first. The attorney has been brainwashed. So they're going to say, oh, no, you owe the debt. Then I got to go through the whole argument. They're just going to throw up objections. They won't listen. But that's where you have an expert witness. Attorneys don't give testimony because they're not considered an expert in that other field. That's why you bring experts into court, and it's verified on both sides. They're a witness, an expert witness, so then they can testify. So you have your letter from your attorney saying that fraud undoes all contracts. And they're going, oh, it's going to cost me $200 or $300 for an attorney. No. Legal Shield for $29. You have access to an attorney for a month. Only use a service for 1 month. So for $29, you have an attorney that writes a letter to the bank that says, first of all, that fraud undoes all contracts. My client is claiming that you have done fraud. So if there is fraud, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over and over again that this is null and void. So my client has no contractual agreement with you. They claim they have a checking account. They want it closed. Then the next part, if you really want to hit them hard, that's with people with $20, $100, $200 million of bank issued large credit card debt. You want to show them that you are about to file a civil lawsuit. Okay. Just like what I filed, but in much more detail. And what you do is also send them discovery. Now, normally you don't do this. You file the lawsuit, you wait, and you take 6 months, a year to get through. No, you send the bank everything up front. So they know you're going to be asking for documents. You're going to have questions. You have admissions, and then you have a deposition date, which is set 10 days in the future. And you give them several dates to pick from. But here is the best part. You have an injunction. Now, when I was talking about this before, people would know what I'm talking about. Today, with your politics, what does Trump do? And then what's the opposition do? They file an injunction. Does that stop Trump? Absolutely. They got to put the brakes on everything because they filed an injunction. Elias, if someone is bothering you, you can take them to court, not to win a judgment against them, but just to have them stop. That's called an injunction. So the bank receives this injunction. They're going to be looking at that. If they file a lawsuit against you, you file the injunction. Very simple piece of paper to respond to. And it says to the judge, these people are full of baloney, and make them come to you with a unpaid outstanding invoice, a certified copy of my promissory note, and I'm also asking them for an affidavit of debt. Someone inside the bank has to swear out on a Bible with penalty of perjury that they're going to go to jail or a fine, that they actually have in their possession the outstanding unpaid invoice, or they also have your signed promissory note, not a certified copy. They have the original to bring into court, and they are claiming that you have a debt. If they don't do that in 30 days, they're now in contempt of court.
Nice bell ring. I know you've been hearing, rooster sounds and bells. Hey, this is diversity to you. They're the unofficial guests, the roosters and the bell. Deal with it, people. I'm keeping them. I don't know if the AI is going to get rid of them. I'm not going to make that promise, but if they stay there, you know what? I'm okay with it.
To a church. And there are roosters outside, but yeah, I didn't hear the crower yet.
It's morning over there. I'm recording 6:14 p.m. Eastern time. I forget what the exact time zone, but it's Philippines, so it's exactly 12 hours ahead. So it's 6 in the morning. Just
come to church.
Context.
We're going to church a little later on.
So roosters and all that. That's why you're hearing that from the other side of the world, literally. There you go. A little cultural shock to those of you who are used to clean American audio. Here's a small pill of culture shock for you. Or just global shock, if you will. I also say global because it's not, you're not hearing languages, you're not dealing with Philippine culture. So I'll just change it to global, a little global time zone shock for you. Okay. This is happening at the same exact time. This is the magic of time zones, I guess. Or, this is just time zones, two very distant time zones working hand in hand. It's interesting to say the least. So, all right, enough of my time zone rambling. I don't know we got there, but let's stick to the thing at hand. Your host got a habit of just going on small tangents. I was going to the court thing. But this is mostly about banks. It does include the courts because this is alleged fraud. Okay, just to be clear, alleged fraud. You want to say, I know it is. And just hold the brakes. Yeah, let the court decide that. Okay. When you do the judgment, and then you can say, yes, this was fraud.
So what you send to the bank is a brick of paper, and you send it to the registered agent, and they're the ones who receive lawsuits. And they'll happily pick it up. They don't argue with you. They say, thank you very much. And they send it off to the attorney of the bank. That attorney is going to look at this brick and it's going to take me 40 hours just to start on this project. And at $500 an hour, that's $20,000. And they're going to file an injunction, which we know we don't have the paper. We know we're caught red-handed. And all they want is a click off the credit report. So if that happens to you, it's off your credit report. It's not getting out of a debt. It's removing a derogatory item off your credit report legally and morally correct. By closing your account, you don't want anymore. So then you can ask me, Tommy, do you have a credit card? Yes, I do. And you know this whole scam's going on? Yes, I do. I was living off grid about 12 years ago. The wife said, get out and take the dog with you. The best thing that ever happened for me. And I became homeless on purpose. I also took a vow of poverty for 10 years to feel what it's like to be poor. And I traveled across the United States living on farms and I wouldn't take charity. I always would work out my room and board and whatever I was at. And so I came off the farm about a year ago, and I was going to go to the Philippines, and I needed to have a credit card to book an airline and to reserve a car to drive from Maine down to New Jersey to fly to Los Angeles and fly to Manila. So I applied for a credit card. And who did I apply to? Capital One. Okay. And I had no score, and I had a clean credit report with nothing on it. And they gave me, that's the important word, they gave me a $500 credit card. So how does that happen? I was a previous customer. I was still in their database as a good customer. That's one of the banks I sued for alleged $35,000 of alleged credit card debt. So it's crazy. So I used the card. I got me a score right away of 550. I went to a credit union and got a loan, a little loan, and I make that payment every month, and I do it automatically, so I'm never late, and that boosts me up to like 650. And now over a period of time, I use 10%, charge $50 on the card. I know it's a scam. I'm telling you, I charge $50 every month, pay it off, never carry a balance. I don't pay any fees. I'll never pay a fee to the bank. So I'm one of the 12% of the people who don't pay anything to the bank. And then what's going to happen? My score went up to 704. And I hear it's going to go a little higher from my last email. So I'm trying to get to 800 to prove to people that you don't have a debt. You can have that removed off your credit report and still reapply for a credit card if you need one. So
that was going to be my next question. I was say, is that going to shut you down for any opportunity for another credit card? Because you already gave them a hard time. They had to kind of bled out that money because it was a gift. They lost out.
See, you've been brainwashed. You're saying their money has been locked out. No, it's your money in your checking account that they didn't confiscate. There you go. That's why they don't want to see you leave, because if you leave, then they only confiscate and they don't keep making $23.04. They need that money coming in because it's a criminal enterprise. And what do you expect criminals to do? Go straight? They're not going to go straight. These are banksters. There's a reason why we call them banksters. And so now you know what the story is. You can choose what you want to do. But again, I always want to tell you, send this podcast to a CPA or anyone who's had one class of accounting, and they'll tell you that I'm 100% correct. So you disagree with my facts. Where am I wrong? Does the bank have an invoice? No. Does the bank have a promissory note? No. Terms and conditions that you use the card are thrown out because fraud. And so you don't like the connection, one step after the next step. I laid it all out for you, followed the money. What you don't like is my conclusion that the banks are fraudsters. So if you have a problem with that, enjoy your credit card, enjoy your debt, and go pay.
For me, I was just asking because you already said we are the bank. Look, they're there to make money in business, right? With these services. You already said they were for about, I'm not going to say the exact amount, like $23, $24, right, on average. So they're losing, I would say, a small profit. I already said everything was a gift. So they give you a $5,000 limit credit card, your gift is $5,000, right? Especially max it out. So that part I'm getting. And I got to channel the skeptics here for a second. So especially, okay, this thing is closed. What about if you need another credit card? I was actually going to get to that. So I'm going to reframe this carefully. But, like I said, unbrainwashing does take process. And I think it's like, I would say I'm 25%, brainwashed left as opposed to 100%. Cause I just thought he was kind of kooky and crazy when I first looked him up. Now more, it's probably certain nuances. I'm still a little, old habits die hard, that's all I can say. But, but these are still good questions to ask because there's going to be situations where you're going to need the gift card, the alleged gift card to get you by. So, let me just frame it like that. See, it's uncomfortable because it's a process. I was going to say, oh, credit card. That'll be my normal response, but the bank's alleged gift card.
Right.
Okay. And I mean, there are situations where you're going to be forced and compelled to do it. So I gotta say this is legitimate because, it seems like, oh, Tommy's such a hypocrite. He knows this is a big, massive scam and fraud, but yet he's still doing it. What's wrong with him? You know what? If I was that brainwashed, I would have said the same thing, but you know what? But things, if you got to think nuance, you got to be mature. There's just times that sometimes it can look hypocritical, but me, I'm a pragmatic person. If I could use a thing a lot less, to me, that's an accomplishment, personally. That's just how I do it.
And Ronald Reagan said, trust, but verify. 3 important words. So you can trust me, but verify. Go to the show notes, look up those 3 links, check it out yourself, but also have this verified with your CPA or someone who's had at least one class of accounting. And they'll tell you this is basic business. You don't have an invoice, you don't have a debt. If you don't have a loan, you don't have a loan. And they can trick you into thinking you do, but then that's fraud. Fraud undoes all contracts. So you do not have a contractual agreement. What you have is a free checking account with your bank. And if you don't want to pay those fees for a free checking account, then close your account, but take the money first before you do that. So for most of my clients that I help, and I have a free 50-minute consultation, the clients I find the money on average, I find the pre go about $2,000. They walk away with $2,000. They also then have their credit report cleaned up and they have a higher score in about 45 days.
Say time right there, 45 days, people. So listeners and viewers, I'm just going to check on you one more time because have we lost you? Or are you becoming enlightened by this? That's my question to you. This is just a simple temperature room check kind of question. Like, ask anything crazy. Like I said, and I'm just going to repeat what he said. You trust this, or you don't have to, just but verify the account. And yeah, I think you should just a CPA. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But check this podcast to see if he's spreading misinformation. And I'm just gonna add me too, if I'm instigating, promoting this misinformation, hold me to account as well. You can say I say a couple of wrong things. I'm not gonna deny it. And this is a learning experience for me too. Disclaimer, I'm not a tax expert, legal expert, all of that. So that's a disclaimer. And I got to make sure I put that in show notes as well. Your host is not a legal expert or even a finance expert or an accountant. I am not. Even though I know some things, but still, I'm not an expert. So that's the main point. I'll make sure, that. And look, I don't care. My ego's been killed. It's been killed many times. It was like a battlefield. That's how much eagles have been killed already of corpses all over the place. Okay. That's how many times my ego has been killed in the podcast. Because if I want to feel my ego, I will never fight him. This guy's crazy. What was he talking about? We owe that big money. Duh. Could have said that. But I was like, there's something to it. There's a lot of things that, you learn something new every day, right? You just learn something new every day. So are you convinced or not? Feel free to leave. I can't hold you. I wish, and I wish in a way I could just, I don't know, have my hand go through the screen and probably slap you silly for being stupid, but I can't do that. So, oh, the host is promoting violence. Oh, no. Oh, they could do an AI edit of look like I'm slapping you. Let's be careful with that. I like to have some fun. I knew he was a hardened person. There's some people I feel like I could take certain risks. The some people's like, oh, okay, no, I'm not sure I can do that, So I hope you're really getting something out of this seriously. And that's all I'm going to say. And then let's just kind of get a wrap up here. Is there anything else you want to add before we do shameless plugins or wrap?
Just back to verify anything I have to say. Don't believe me. Don't believe the show. Just do your own research and it's up to you. Don't shoot the messenger. I am just an accountant who knows how to count and has a memory. So that's what I'm reporting to you is what's going on. So it's up to you to dig for what you want.
It's your choice in the end of the day. I like that. And don't shoot the messenger. Yeah. I mean, look, I will support shooting a bear if it attacks you. That's most, I will support like gun use. Okay. But not a messenger. Okay. Just calm down. This is not about politics. This is not Trump Kamala kind of craziness. Look, and I stood away mostly from politics because I'll have to take a break. It's crazy out there. That's what I'm going to say. And I do cover politics a lot as an independent who don't like both camps, to be quite honest. So that's all I'm going to say about it. So it does have political references, but it's based on fact. And you can't always avoid it. So we got the Reagan example and this example, but it's factual. I'm fine with it. There's certain exceptions. I call these like gray area kind of rules. There's certain tolerance that you could just bend. There's like bend the rule, don't break it kind of thing. Okay, it fits. You kind of damage the line a little bit. That's okay. And trust me, I know this audio or visual journey's been long. And this has been a lot. And I said, one side of my brain is feeling pain right now because it's being challenged. Okay. And I'm sure probably by the next episode, hold me to account. I want you to hold me my foot to the fire. I'll talk to another financial expert. I might refer back to saying certain things, either just to appease or I am back to being re-brainwashed. That's up to you to figure out. Okay. He's not going to be the last, finance expert. I'm just going to say just a simple term because it's finances. Experts, and I like finance experts because I feel like I learn the most from them. That and legal experts. And I got to shout out to Kirk Beck for promoting how to defend yourself in court, even without an attorney. So another anti-attorney of guests, not the first one. So I got to burst that bubble. Kirk Beck is, and he came up twice because he had such great value. Just to have, we have to be, freedom comes with responsibility, people. If you don't want no responsibility, you don't want freedom. You can't, you can't separate the two. And then we try to do that, and it doesn't work out. All right. Enough from Miami. Let's do the shameless plug-in. He has a lot of stuff out, and feel free to chime in whenever I forget. Let's promote the first one. Forgive and forget. How to nuke your credit card debt. I'm reading verbatim. These are his words, not mine. And I know it's spicy to some of you people. And I'm sure he has other stuff he wants to share with you as well. He does got, I think, just a Facebook there. He's not much of a social media person. So that's going to be in a link as well. Probably slightly above the show. Actually, I'm going to put the show notes kind of in the middle, description, show notes, and then the social medias and all that. Because I want to make sure you're accessing the receipts. Okay, that's why I'm doing this. And this is a slightly different practice, but it's okay. It's no big deal to me. Anything else you want to promote before I wrap this up?
The book is available on Amazon. If you do a 15-minute free consultation, I'll give you my $69 book for free. I want to help you, and I'm looking for the best client would be a company that is about to go bankrupt. And they have, let's say, $200,000 of bank-issued alleged credit card debt. Their board of directors are all maxed out. The wrong terminology, but they're all in dire straits. Their employees are tapped. And so what I would like to have is a CPA sit down, which is their CFO, most likely. The CFO meets with all the employees and all the board members in one big room and says, look, we've been scammed. We're going to be filing this lawsuit. If you want to be added on to it, feel free. But we're going to send this letter with a proposed lawsuit. So we're not going to file a lawsuit yet, but we're going to send this off to the bank and we're asking them to click it off our credit report. So the company is going to have no more bank alleged credit card debt. The board of directors are onto this, and any employee that wants to sign on, just feel free and we'll add your name to the letter. So we expect in 45 days to have $500,000 of bank issued alleged credit card debt off of our shoulders. And guess what? We're going to be viable tomorrow because we won't have to be paying out so much money for a free checking account. So that's what the CPA is going to tell them. Then the attorney says, have it all done. Fraud undoes all contracts and then you can have a priest or a minister come and say it's not immoral because you've been deceived by Satan and can show the Bible quotes and pay it to Caesar with Caesar's, but not when Caesar is deceiving you, is Satan. So you don't pay Satan. So you can go many different directions.
Well, I think in this case, I say they max out their free gifts.
And then reapply. It worked for me. So go figure.
Yep. So, and then of course, we're in the future. You get reapplied. So there's hope for you because I'm sure some of you have that concern. And I was thinking of that question. So what if they could say, well, but thing is, then again, come to think of it, your report is clean.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Yeah. And they want $23.04. So every single card member is not going to pay $23. I'm not going to pay them a single penny, but because I'm added on, they know they're going to be bringing in on average $23.04 a month. So I'm helping their profits. Look at it that way. So reapply.
That's your worth as a customer. Average worth. I don't know. It's going to be adjusted when inflation is going to go up.
Oh yeah.
I would say, yeah. I'll guess. Yeah, sure. This is basic financial studies. I'm not an expert. Okay. Don't say, oh, Elias on financial studies, you're just acting dumb. No, I don't know. Okay. I could deceive you probably with political narratives, but not with finance, not with finances. Okay. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe I shouldn't have said that either. Oh, no, I got just what you're saying. Oh, please. You come back and listen to me anyways. You need the entertainment. Okay. You need some of the entertainment or you want to bash me. Okay. You want to feel good bashing me. Come on. That's the reason. Is it toxic? Yes. But hey, I get your listenership. That's all I care about. The context is negative. But hey, it's the listenership. All right. There's freebies too. Come on, people. Sign up. Don't hesitate. There's no excuse for hesitation. You get a freebie. You want some help. Okay. You're not a big company, a lot of you, but go there anyways. Maybe a $200, gift you use. $2,000 gift. Oh, I'm sure he wants someone to have millions of dollars of gifts. Okay. So just go there. The link is going to be in the description as well. And you can feel free to reach off. I missed the link. That's a very easy correction. That's literally 2 clicks at worst case scenario, 30 seconds of correction. But it'd probably take like a day for internet just to fully reboot that. But for me, that's easy. That's to me basic computer stuff right there. So it's no big deal. So, all right, let's wrap this up. I'm sure you've learned something or you got angry and you're still brainwashed. Well, I can't help you there. But go see a therapist. That's all I recommend. So for my show, donate $3 with your gift card. Okay. The gift card. Heck, be nicer. Put 10, something, all right? I don't care. I'm shameless. Put $10. I'll give you exclusive content, all right? You pressure me to give you exclusive content, all right? You're sort of my boss in that sense, all right? Allegedly, it's not debt. It's the bank's alleged gift to you, okay? So use that gift. Spread kindness. You got more money than you think, all right? Allegedly, of course, allegedly. So that's all I'm going to say. Like, share, subscribe, comment, the whole YouTube, Rumble, regular stuff, and give a review. I only pay attention to Apple Podcast reviews, okay? And give constructive ones. Give why you like it or why you think the episode sucked. Give reasoning behind it. Not just say it's great or it's lame. I don't care. I just want something with some substance to it. All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. And, comment about what you think of the guests and the host or both, whatever your heart's content, no matter how pure or mixed or vile it is, just express it. The risk is on you with YouTube. Okay. But once it's on Rumble, you have a lot more freedom, and that will come later because Rumble's my secondary account. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about that. Oh, if you want to be a guest, join on Podmatch. The link will be in the description as well. Join Podmatch. Podmatch is a great way. This is how me and him connected, and he's been a wonderful guest. Not in a comfortable way, if I'm gonna be honest, but in a challenging kind of way. And you need challenge to stimulate. Whenever you complete this audio visual journey, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.